Right now, we're so happy that he could join us. He is the new commissioner of baseball. It's Rob Manfred. And, Rob, when you wake up in the morning and you're the commissioner of baseball, do you walk past the mirror, wink, and go, oh, yeah, I got it going on?
Well, you made me laugh right off the bat. I have to tell you the truth. I felt pretty good yesterday morning. It was an exciting day. It was a little odd because it was Sunday, and I didn't go to the office, but I had lots of calls from baseball people, and it was really a very enjoyable day.
All right, so you're taking on this big job, and obviously you've got a lot of stuff that you want to do. What would you say is job one for Rob Manfred as you take this job?
I think the single biggest focus you're going to see from us, Michael, going forward is a focus on young people. We really would like to increase the level of participation among kids. We think it's important in terms of making sure that our sport has the best athletes, and we also think it's the best way to build the next generation of fans. So we're going to work hard to get them playing, and we're also going to have an increased focus on getting young people in the ballpark.
And I think what's attached to that, Commissioner, is length of game. So how concerned are you to shorten the game so that you can actually win over a generation that has a very short attention span?
Look, I am very interested in the topic of the length of the game, the pace of game. I do think that it's important for baseball to be consistent with the kind of society that we live in today, which is obviously very fast-paced. And I think there's real symbolic value to us being responsive to fans' concerns in that regard and trying to make the games a little tighter and a little shorter.
Now, you're a guy who's very linked in. Obviously, you've got the iPad all the time. You've got your handheld device. And I know that you want to bring that more into baseball. When people watch games on TV, Rob, that's what they do. I mean, they're looking at stats. They're playing fantasy, stuff like that. And one of the things that really has annoyed me, even some of the new ballparks in baseball, when there's a big crowd, you can't even get online. I mean, is that something that worries you?
It does worry me, and it's not only does it worry me, but it's something we're working on. MLB.com is working with the individual clubs to make sure that the Wi-Fi systems in stadiums are sufficient to support the use of those devices. I think the ballparks where that project is complete are materially better than places where we haven't quite gotten the projects done. So I think you will see continued improvement on that front. But the more general point, Michael, you're 100% right about. We're fortunate. We have a world-class technology company in MLB.com, and we need to make sure that we fill up those second screens so that people who are watching on TV or watching in the ballpark we don't want to distract them. We want to give them additional information that makes them appreciate the play of the game on the field even more.
And I'm glad you brought up the game on the field, because when we're doing talk shows, the two biggest complaints that we get, and I think they kind of are joined together, is length of game, but also wanting more offense. But the problem is, if you get more offense, then the game's longer. So is that a challenge to try to promote? You have home runs, get runs scored, the excitement of runs scored, but also be able to make sure that you do it in a condensed period of time. Is that even possible?
Well, we are focused on both issues, and, Don, this is the good news for you. We are smart enough to realize that they can go in opposite directions in terms of the length of the game and
sure,
getting additional offense. I think that you can, however, deal with the two problems by realizing that it's not just pure length. Okay. If, in fact, there's activity going on in the game, people have more tolerance for length. And it's going to be a balancing act to make sure that we make progress on both topics. The other thing I'd say to you about the offense issue is that this is a relatively recent phenomenon. Just the last 4 years or so where the trend's really significant. And we want to make sure before we take any drastic steps on that front that we really have a trend that won't self-correct. It may be that it's just a little blip on the statistical screen.
Talking with Rob Manfred, the new commissioner of baseball. Rob, you know I love the sport. I just think it's so fascinating. People that say it's slow-moving don't realize there's a million things happening when there's nothing happening. But that being said, sometimes I believe that the strength of baseball is, in fact, its tradition. But the tradition of baseball also handcuffs baseball now. I mean, if you make the slightest tweak, people's heads explode. I mean, how are you going to reconcile this? Because sometimes it has to be brought into a new era. It has to be modernized. It might have to be sped up. Do you feel that conflict there that, hey, the tradition is important, but sometimes we have to pull away from that?
I think that the most difficult chore with respect to the actual play of the game is to continue to modernize the game as you suggest, while at the same time not interfering with the core the core traditions of the game. And I think the way you make progress on this is, I'll give you a great example. You know, Pace of Play committee met following the season. It's easy to sit in a room and people react to ideas. Some people are very traditional. They don't like ideas. What we did on the Pace of Play committee is we deployed those ideas in the Arizona Fall League. And then we had people like, you can imagine, clocks were controversial in that committee. It's the game with no clock, right? We all get that. But you know what? We played the games in the Arizona Fall League with the clocks. People went and saw them. Even the most traditional people on that committee realized that those clocks produced a flow in the game that was positive. It was just a better pacing of the game. So what you need to do is take your time, experiment where we have flexibility, and build a consensus around the change that you're trying to drive.
When do we see a clock in Major League Baseball? Because I know that's something that has to be collectively bargained.
It does have to be bargained. I think what you're going to see on Pace of Play, Michael, let me answer broadly, is that you're going to see a series of changes for the 2015 season. I feel really confident that we're going to reach an agreement with the Players Association on that. But I think the more important point, and probably more relevant to the specific question you asked, is this is going to be a multi-year effort. We're going to do some stuff in 15. We're probably going to be doing some additional stuff in 16 and maybe even beyond.